Thank you for joining us today for the virtual Sunday service with the Center for Creative Living. CCL, a charter of the Universal Church of the Master, has served and supported the spiritual needs of its community here in the Bay Area for over 20 years.
Good morning! Merry Sunday to you. We need a lot of merriment. This has been quite a week, and I want you to know how much I appreciate you tuning in to see us. We have an incredible church service today because of these amazing people we're going to have joining us. We're going to have our Reverend Dr. Ayleen doing our prayer this morning, and as you know, she is one of the best people to do a message after a time of a lot of negativity that's been going on. We're going to get a talk by Reverend Joyce C. Brown. And if you've ever heard Joyce, you know she's also somebody that brings inspiration, education, and most of all, spirituality into the place. Her energy is dynamic, and her stories about her father always make me feel happy and sometimes bring a tear to my eye of what a gorgeous man, what a fantastic father and teacher he was. So I'm so glad you're going to be able to join us for that. And the other thing is our Reverend Ronnie Grigsby, all the way from Sacramento, is going to be singing a song just for us this morning. And then another just for us thing that's happening is Reverend Dr. Janet Childs is going to do the meditation accompanied by a slideshow of fathers prepared by Reverend Corey Gott. So many things are happening because this is a very exciting time of the year. Not only is it Father's Day, but it's also coming up to be the summer solstice. That's a time when you can start looking at what's going on in the world. It's also a time for you to reevaluate where you're going now that we're halfway through the year. What are you doing to make your body and soul be able to stand up and say, yes, we've made it and we're moving ahead? I know all of you can do that. Here at the Center for Creative Living, we're putting prayers out to you. We're putting hope out to you. But most of all, we want you to know that we're here for you. If you're going through any kind of problems, whether it's spiritual, mental, emotional, financial, call us at 408-392-9090. And we'll have a minister get in touch with you who can talk to you and most of all, listen to you and appreciate who you truly are. And who you truly are is a child of God. And as you know, being a child of God sometimes means you have to shine when you don't feel like shining. Smile when you don't particularly feel like smiling. Because when things are difficult, it's very easy to feel that God is not there. But the truth is, God is always right there with you, helping you walk, helping you talk, and helping you face adversity. Thank you so much again for joining us. We're so excited for today's service, and we know without you, it wouldn't be the same. So, why don't you get on the chat line and let us know how your day's going, how your life's going. We want to hear from you because you know what? You're loved. Thanks again for joining us.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Dr. Ayleen Augustine, and I'm the president of the Universal Church of the Master, and it is my honor to do this morning's prayer. Yesterday, I spent the day in a protest march in San Jose, and it was amazing. It was pulled together by faith leaders from several different churches, and we walked together and we prayed together and we communicated with one another all of the things that we saw that were going on around us that were so hard, and really working to be able to find that balance between trusting in God's faith and understanding that we have our work that we must do. The most inspirational part of that was watching the young people, these amazing young leaders who are going to one day step up and really, become the leaders of the future. And after seeing their commitment, their strength, their tenacity, and their desire and passion for justice, honestly, I think the future is going to be very safe in their hands. Our job is to deal with the present so that we make sure they have a future. So, it is Father's Day, and we are honoring those who are fathers either by blood or by choice. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't love and honor my father. Even though he's been gone for a very long time, I still feel his love and I feel his support. A father's love is something that's so tremendously special. So for all of you who are fathers, happy Father's Day. Now, we are also sitting at the summer solstice, or as the Druids would say, Alben Heffen, which translates to light of the shore. It is that point where we stand at the edge of one experience and face another. And as the summer solstice is that last long day before the darkness starts to become more of the reality as we head into the winter, it's important to remember that yes, we are headed into dark times. And, though anyone who is keeping track of the news, it does feel as though, things are getting darker and darker and more bad news is coming. But the most important thing to remember is that even though that darkness comes, there is light on the other side of it. We simply have to endure and do the best we can and make the most we can of what we have. Just because there's darkness around us does not mean there's darkness within us. And we can stand together and be able to hold back that darkness until the spring comes again, because there will be light on the other side of this. Looking into those young faces, I know for a fact there will be light on the other side of this. So take a nice deep breath in, and as you exhale, just let anything that's weighing on your body, your mind, or your spirit, just picture it falling into that little imaginary basket next to you, your care basket, because in this moment, you don't have to be holding it. Just let it sit. Dear, blessed, and wonderful Creator, we thank you for this day and we thank you for our lives. We thank you for all the blessings you give in each and every moment and with each and every breath. We thank you for the blessing of the turning of the wheel, the changing of the seasons, because we know whether we are in darkness or light, you are with us and you teach us, and there's so many lessons for us to learn in that dark place, but we know you would never leave us alone there. We know that there are hard times now and there is so much suffering in the world, and we also know that we can do this. We can do this with love, your love for us and our love for one another. We can stand in the face of that darkness and shine brighter than it has any capacity to quench. Creator, we thank you for the blessing of fathers, those who have taught us and protected us and guarded us, and, who sometimes maybe we railed against because we wanted to step up into our own. And the greatest gift that fathers give is letting go and letting us try and letting us move forward into our own lives, even though they have been our protectors for so long. You are our Father and our Mother. And on this day, we thank you so much for being that paternal figure, that gentle hand, that guiding force who guides us with love, who protects us and yet will allow us to move forward and make our mistakes, knowing that you're proud of us for trying. Thank you so much, Creator, for being our Father. Creator, we thank you for all of those who are fighting injustice. We ask that you touch them and protect them and encourage them and strengthen them. We also ask that you watch over all those who are on the front lines of the COVID virus and that crisis, because we know that it's a lot and we need you now to remind us that you are there and that no matter what we face, you will give us the tools to manage it. Please strengthen all of those first responders and doctors and nurses and scientists and support staff and all of the people who are essential services that are out there and taking care of people in a good way. Thank you so much for them, Creator, and may they be safe as well as their loved ones. Creator, we thank you for the blessing of justice. We thank you for helping our voices be heard. We thank you for standing with us so that we know we never stand alone. And Creator, we thank you for the blessing of and ask that you bless all those who are sick, all those who have things weighing on them, all those who are going through a really hard time right now. We know that you're next to them and we pray that they feel that. Creator, thank you for all the young ones who will be tomorrow's leaders. Thank you for placing your light within them, that they will stand up and continue the fight and continue to seek justice when we've grown tired. I know the world will be safe in their hands, Creator, because you are with them. Creator, thank you for all your blessings, and whatever it means to you, happy Father's Day. For all your creation to the next 7 generations and beyond. Aho mitak oisin, ago, 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 by earth, sea, and sky. Namaste, assalamu alaikum. Blessed be. Amen.
Greetings, everyone. It's going to be an absolutely fabulous rest of the week and Father's Day. And my name is, well, you all know what my name is, right? I'm going to tell you. Joyce C. Brown. I'm a reverend in everything. Give some thought to that. Now then, I wanted to share a little bit with you about the most amazing person in my life, that he is with me as soul now, but he was also with me as a physical man. That was my daddy. And I have referred about him, and those of you who are new will get to hear a little about him today. For those of you who know me, you will say, okay, we know about who daddy is. Joseph Levi Thomas Brown. Full name. And then I came along and they named me Joyce C. Brown. I wondered about that. But let me tell you a little something about my birth. And then this will move along really well. And it'll help you to understand why Father's Day for me was so very important. Once I learned there was such a thing and could celebrate something special with my daddy. And I always called him Daddy, and I still do. So I was born June 7th, 1949, in a place called Bolivar County in Marigold, Mississippi. And predominantly, at that time, we were considered Negroes. We've moved this up now. I am now an African American. And we were farm country people. We did farming, all kinds of things like that. There were cattle, horses, you name it. So the night that I came into being, at least I always thought it was a night, there was black clouds rolling on the ground, which made it night. Driving winds, everything you can imagine, and I decided to come in. So my father went to get the midwife driving a Model T Ford. I always find this stuff really fascinating. And came back with the midwife, and I came in. And I came in with the birth sack, they called it, around me. It was decided that I would either be wise or stupid. This is country folks for you. Giving you something to look forward to. So, here I am, Joyce C. Brown. Now, my birth certificate says my name is Josie. Yeah, I know. I had a midwife who spelled my name the way it sounded. Joyce C. Brown sounded like that to her, so she wrote it that way. I'm okay. Now then, what I wanted to tell you is this. After I came into being as Joyce C. Brown, the clouds lifted, and I was told that the sun came out. My mother told me this, so I believed it. My mother didn't kid around about things like that. So I've yet to understand, was it night or was it day? All I know is I was born June 7th, 1949. Now, my daddy, Joseph Levi Thomas Brown, was pivotal in my life from that moment forward. Okay? So I learned so much from him around being myself, being comfortable with being myself, and that I did not need for everyone to understand me all the time, because he just seemed to understand me. And I appreciated that, because I did not communicate very well, because I had all this information going through my head, and when I would say certain things that was beyond what anyone knew at the time, I got looked at very oddly. And sometimes they would say, "Girl, what's wrong with you?" So after you hear that for a number of years, you stop talking. Okay? That's the long version. It goes up further when I quit talking. But right now I'm still talking. I'm 2 years old. I'm 3 years old. And I'm 4 years old. This is a pivotal time, this 4 years old. Well, the 2 years was 2 because I wouldn't walk. So my family decided that they would just sit me on the edge of the porch. It was called a porch then. And see what I would do. I'd sit there. People come along and talk to me. Did I talk? Yes. My mother would come out and say, "What did they say?" And I would tell her what they said. The guy who was drunk would say, "Miss Louise, I'm so drunk, I've got Jesus in a jug." And I would tell her what he said. And she said, "Oh." But I also had the souls come visit me. We called them haints then. Call them ghosts and spirits now. And they would come over and look at me and say, "Look at the baby and look at the baby." And I would look at them. And out would come my mother and say, "What did they say?" And I said, "They said, look at the baby, look at the baby." And they'd move their heads around and they'd smile at me, and they were dressed in beautiful clothing, kind of like the zoot suits kind of stuff. Coordinated colors, men and women walking up and down the road. I thought they were real people. My mother could see them, so she knew they weren't. So this is my 2 years, 2.5 years, up to 3. At 2.5, I decided to get up and walk. Somebody asked me why. I said I had some place to go. So I'm 4. My father comes home, and I'm sad, and I'm crying. And he wanted to know, he said, "Joyce C., what's wrong?" And I said, "They won't let me play King of the Hill." And he said, "Come with me, Joyce C." And he took my hand, and he took me out to the back of the house to the road with this big hill of dirt. And we were walking along, and my father took off running. I took off running, and I ran through his legs. He was bow-legged, up to the hill, and I was jumping all around, going, I won, I won, I won. And he laughed, and I was the happiest little kid in the world. Guess what? I never played that game again. And I told this to someone else once, and they said, well, why didn't you? I said, why? I said, I beat my daddy. Who else am I going to beat? Right? I beat my daddy. I had conquered King of the Hill. So from then on, my father kept teaching me through stories. All kinds of stories, amazing stories about his life, about what he called the ghosts and the haunts, about his life, about so many things with what it was like for him to be a young boy growing up into a man. And some of the stories that I learned was very important because my father always carried himself like he was a man. He did not carry himself like he was someone's boy or someone who didn't have a name. He had a name. It was Joe. And you called him that. Some called him Bro Joe, Brother Joe, because he had been a deacon in the church once, and he had been a Mason once. But he never, ever looked down when he talked to any man, especially when he was talking to white folks. I grew up with two kinds of folks, black folks and white folks. And so when he talked to black folks, he was always talking to someone looking him in the eye. But when he talked to white folks, he did the same thing. And what they did is they talked to him as a man. They did not talk to him as somebody who was not a man. I learned that from watching my father do this. Everybody else is standing around looking in all kinds of places and not looking at what is happening. I wanted to know what my daddy was going to do. And he would look the plantation owner in the eye. And he would call my father by his name. He would say, Joe, I want to talk to you about this lower 40s of cotton or whatever it was he wanted to talk about. And my father, true to the time, would say, yes, sir. And they would walk off and talk. Walk off side by side. My daddy wasn't following. He didn't have his head down. And he wasn't acting like he wasn't important. I'm watching. And I'm looking at all of this. And then one day, my father had the greatest shock in his life that I can recall. Someone drove out to tell him that his son had been killed. His oldest son, Robert, my oldest half-brother. First time I ever saw my father just become angry and hurt. And he wanted to go and kill this man. And because the police who came out to tell my father this said that the man was just free. They hadn't arrested him. It was self-defense. But he had shot my half-brother, Robert, in the back. So we're trying to figure out how could that be self-defense. So my father went into the house to get his gun. He was a marksman. And my mother stood up and went in the house. And he came back outside and he sat down and he cried. Ugh. And I cried with him. And he just cried. And I thought to myself, he should not have to do that. He should not have to cry like that. So those were the times that when his son was also someone who looked white folk in the eye. And the word was, they weren't going to do anything because one So I'm not going to use that N word. I'm just going to say the N word. That one N word had killed another N word, and so what? So those of you who don't know what the N word is, go ask somebody who do. They'll tell you. Now then, so I'm around about 8 or 9 then, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm watching. I'm also now at this point working in the fields. I'm hoeing cotton. I'm picking cotton. I'm working around the home that we lived in. I'm learning to cook. I'm cleaning. I'm doing all kinds of stuff because this is what girls were doing. But I didn't want to just do the girl stuff. I wanted to go and be where my daddy was. And guess where he was? He was out in the fields. So I managed to figure out how to become good at being in the fields so I could be with him. And I did. I learned how to pick cotton. And I'm telling you this for a reason. I learned how to pick cotton, to drag a sack on my back that would carry 50, 60, or 100 pounds of cotton so I could be with my daddy. And all the while I'm with him, he's talking. He's teaching me about me. I didn't realize it at the time. He was teaching me about being who I am. And it was at this time when I'm about 10, he called my name. And it's really important I tell you that he called my name. My name, Joyce C. Brown. He would say Joyce C. And then he would tell me something that was important for me to know. So one day I'm out in the field. And he said to me, Joyce C. And I said, yes, Daddy. Because I always knew to listen when he called my name. Okay? It was very important. He was going to tell me something important. He said, don't you ever bow your neck so someone can put their foot on it. And I never have. People mistake kindness, compassion, support for being weak. I am not weak. But yet people want you to be something else because it's hard sometimes for others to accept strongness in other people who are not like them or unlike them. Different races and languages, it's hard to accept sometimes. So you learn to be yourself in the face of controversy or others being uncomfortable. But I had a very good teacher who taught me how to respect myself and to honor myself and to be good to me at all times. This is my daddy. I remember one time we were hoeing cotton and my back hurt. And I told him, I said, Daddy, my back hurts. He said, Joyce C., you don't have a back. That's a gristle. So I thought, well, okay. I said, well, Daddy, if this is a gristle, I don't want a back. And he laughed, and he looked at me, and he laughed, and I laughed. And I went back to hoeing cotton. And hoeing cotton was something you had to do right, or the cotton did not produce enough cotton. So I was looking down, hoeing cotton. And by the time I looked up, and my father was at the end of the rows. The rows were long, half the length of a football field, sometimes longer. And I noticed that my row had been thinned properly. And there was my father standing there smiling at me. And I smiled at him because he understood what I was going through. And he was helping me to be okay, to do what I was doing. Because he also had gone through a childhood of having to do things that were hard and difficult. Understand, my father was born, we're told 1898, but now it's saying that maybe it was 1894. We don't know for sure. We're still trying to get this sorted. So when my father was born, After my father's birth came after the Emancipation Proclamation, so 1865. My father's father and my father's grandfather, his aunts, his grandmothers were all slaves. And it's really important for you to get this. They were all slaves. The emancipation freed them up, and they were living in predominantly a black community of slaves who farmed and took care of each other and stood very strong for each other. And so my father, as a young boy, grew up in an atmosphere of individuals who are now free, no longer property, learning how to work together and to be supportive of each other. Not because you had to, as under slavery, but because this is something you wanted to do to build community. There is a big difference. So this is the man who's teaching me how to be myself, how to be good to me, how to respect myself, and to respect others. And it always came with him calling my name, Joyce C. So now what? Now you know why I put the C back. Because something was missing without it. So I put it back. I feel so much better. Every day I learn something from him about being myself. Not about trying to be myself, but just being myself the best I could. He understood me. I wasn't understood because I was too different. My difference was that I asked questions. I wanted to know things. My difference was I wanted to read. That's a carryover. We will not discuss that aspect of my life. That means I have books everywhere. We will not look into that. Now you know. I wanted to understand more about the world I lived in, not just that small piece. I wanted to know more about what others were doing. And I am still learning. I am here at CCL. This is a place to learn. You want to learn something? Help you to become more attuned to others and more connected to yourself? Okay, this is a good place because we have diversity in here. We do. Trust me on that one. And not only that, you're welcome. You're just welcome. Be yourself. Come on in. Sit around. Have some tea, coffee. Have a snack. Say hello to someone. We care. So what did I learn from my father that ties into all of this? That he cared about me. Now what he did with the other children, he did. But with me, he told stories. I've written them all down. They teach. Every story teaches. He told me about traveling by train and seeing black men hanging from trestles. He told me about standing with other black men with guns to keep white folks from coming and killing a family and driving them off to take their land. He told me what it was like to be himself in a time when he wasn't to be a man. He was to work hard like a horse or an animal, but you're not a man. And so when my father stood up to white folks and said, my children are going to school, white folks, he says, your children going to school? And they all called him Joe, and they said, yes, Joe. He said, that's where my children are going. And guess what? We had to move again. And every time he stood, and when I was old enough to witness it, I learned something about how you stand. See, standing isn't about being angry. It's about being strong. There's a difference. So I watched this strong man, and I saw him share pain. And just, I once saw him angry. I saw him hurt. I saw him laugh and tell stories that helped me to be calm in the face of tornadoes and storms. And when the levees broke, and it had been raining so long that everything flooded, I felt safe. I didn't feel safe because we had a boat to get in to go someplace. I felt safe because I had Daddy. I felt safe. I felt that he would not let anything harm me or anyone. I trusted him. I didn't have any fear with him. I learned a lot. This is what fathers are about for me. This is my dad. I can only tell you about him. Everyone else have to tell your own story about your dad. You have to tell that story. But this is my story. This is a man who ran juke houses with my mother. This is a man who had guys who went on to Chicago to become big bluesers like Howlin' Wolf come down there and play at that juke house, where the Friday night, Saturday night is where you let go of everything and you got to be a person and you didn't have to be something other than. This is where you went to be, where you could be yourself and cut loose and let go of the weak, where you had not had your identity. But in the midst of it all, I always felt that my father always had his identity because no one ever challenged him about it. Others would come to him and ask him about questions and support. So I want to tell you this. Just before I was 22, I wanted to quit school. I was so bored. The teachers were, to me at that time, very limited. If it wasn't in a book, it wasn't real. I had teachers want to tell me what my life was like. You know, they spent a summer in a southern place for a month seeing how the Negroes were living. Then they go back and write a paper, and now they become a teacher, and now they want to tell me what my life was like. I don't know, 30 days perhaps they did get something, but they didn't get me. They got themselves and their own ideas and beliefs about what I was like. So I didn't want to go. We were down there in Santa Barbara, California. So we're sitting in the kitchen table, and I was talking to my daddy because I could talk to him. And he said to me, he said, "Joyce C." I said, "Yes, Daddy." He says, "Have you learned everything you went to learn?" I said, "No, Daddy." He said, "Well then." That was the end of that discussion. I went back to school. I got 2 bachelors, 2 masters, and I started the PhD program at UC Santa Barbara. Okay? I did it for my daddy, actually. But then I discovered I really did it. I did it for him because he didn't get to go to school. He was taken out of school in 3rd grade and put to work because he was a big kid and he could work a man's work. His grandfather did that. My great-grandfather did that. And my father could write his name only. And he was proud of that. And I was proud of him. And you know why? Because I saw others not proud of him. Because he could only write his name. And this was in my family. And I wasn't proud of it. And so you know what I did? Whenever we went someplace and he had to write his name, here's what I did. I said, "Daddy, let me do that. All you got to do, Daddy, is put the X there. I'm going to write that name for you." I said, "Because I want to do that." And my father would look at me and smile and nod his head, and I would write his name. This is my father. You don't mess with somebody's father when you love him that much. And I don't care if you're my siblings. I don't care who you are. You don't go there. You don't go there. You don't go there. Not in my memories, you don't. This is my daddy. And you have to have in your heart some love for these individuals that you call parents. Don't just toss them aside. They taught you something. Look back and figure out what it was. Did they teach you to have courage, compassion, love, kindness, strength, integrity, honesty? Did they teach you to stand and help somebody in need? This is parents. But I learned all of this from my father. All of it. You see. And so, when my father left this world, he left physically. That's all that left. The love and everything else stayed. Every part of it stayed. I'm always using the teachings every day. I had someone say to me, "You always tell stories." I said, "Yeah." And they said, "How come?" I said, "Because my daddy told stories, because when he told stories, I would listen." And I learned. I said, "When I tell stories, do you listen?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Do you learn?" "More than I can say." I said, "That's why I do it." My father was an incredible teacher. An incredible teacher who taught me to use my skill. Use the gift I have. I have speech. Then use it. Creativity, use it. Sharing that with others, use it. And when you can, toss in something amusing. Because he used to tell some pretty good funny stories. He also would scare the heck out of you too. All of it came out of this one man who helped me to understand what it was like to be myself. So when he left this planet, June 10th, 1972, 3 days after my birthday. 3 days. Of all the things I do not remember around numbers, that one has never evaded me, never faded, because it is connected to someone that was so important in my life that I still thank him for helping me to be who I am in the face of everything. Not just once in a while. I do the best I can every day to be me. So I just wanted to share this with you. He taught me to have strength. Sometimes the voice speaks like, I'm not angry when I speak strong. I had someone say to me, "You're angry." I said, "I don't understand." And they said, "Well, you're angry, your voice." I said, "No, my voice is strong." I said, "I'm not angry." I said, "If I was angry, you would know I was angry." But I learned how to do things. I learned how to be myself, and I learned something else. Wisdom is to be practiced. What you gain and learn from someone is to be practiced. Share it, practice to the best of your ability, but whatever you do, do not forget that there's always someone in your life to teach you. So this is a picture of my daddy. This was before, a couple of years before he passed on. So he was either 74 or 79. Like I said, we're still figuring it out. And this is him holding one of his granddaughters, who is also a mother these days. And this was us living in Santa Barbara, California. And this was the man who helped me to grow up to be the woman that I am, and to be proud of me, and to be proud of him. And that is something that is priceless, and nothing can take that away. Have a wonderful Father's Day to all the fathers that are to become fathers. And just remember that you have someone there who will look up to you, but take time to spend time with them and to share something with them, to help them to understand what it's like to be in the world and to know that they are not alone. Thank you.
Your memory is my living legacy, forever held in my hands, tender moments unfolding. Oh, Father, Father, Papi, Father, Father, we're returning back to the path we once were, gazing forward to the dream getting nearer. Father, Father, inside of me, thank you for the promise that allows me to be free. Bring me home to safety, teach me how to risk, help me find my purpose, embedded in the mist of my tears for your missing, for my loss of what never was. Father, Father, Papi, Papa, Father, Father, my dad. Father, Father, lying within me, bring me home. So, my friends, let us call forth the Father within. Maybe we had an amazing Father, and maybe we didn't. But our Father of birth, of heart, can be called forth within our own being, within our own soul. We can take the sweet memories that are a living legacy, and we can build this forward, and we can create a new strength of heart, forever held in my hands. All of the fathers that have fathered us, we honor them today, returning back to that path we once were. We gaze forward to the dream getting nearer. Father, Father, inside of me, thank you for the promise that allows me to be free. Bring me home to safety, teach me how to risk, help me find my purpose, embedded in the mist of my tears for your missing, for my loss of what never was, for my dream of what we're becoming. Father, Father, you are in my heart, ever in my heart.
What do you do when you've done all you can? It seems like it's never enough. And what do you say when your friends turn away and you're all alone, you're all alone, you're all alone? Tell me, what do you give when you're giving your all? And it seems like you can't make it through. Well, you just stand when there's nothing left to do. You cried and prayed. After you've done all you can. 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 You just stand. You just stand. You just stand.
Thank you for joining us for this celebration of faith and fellowship. We'll be back next Sunday, and for those of you, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comments section. If you appreciate this video and the work that the Center for Creative Living is doing, please press like on the video. You can share the video, and also please subscribe, because that will help this community and the church grow. Remember, in these difficult and challenging times, the opportunity to give and support an organization that has done so much for the community is tremendously important. Please help the Center for Creative Living continue in the wonderful work that it does. We will make it through this. We will be stronger for it. Our faith will carry us. Be blessed, be safe, and have a wonderful week.